show everybody's faces for a second and say thanks again for being here. I'm just checking the voice is fine. You can hear it. Otherwise, I'll put a headset on. We're good?
You're good.
Somebody give me a nod. Thanks, Joe. Perfect. I appreciate it. So I'm going to begin our presentation. And look, one of the things that I'm going to do today is I want to talk specifically about these face-off procedures. And I will tell you a little bit of some interesting stuff about training for adults. I don't know how many of you have taken formal adult education training. I know I have. And one of the things that they're finding is that adults do not do well on long presentations. The UMLOA did a research on this, or they asked a whole bunch of people and what their preferences were. And I think they got about 160 responses, and found out that that they liked presentations that were like 30 minutes or less. Seemed to work the best. We're not going to do that all the time, but you will see that we've tried to break this off in chunks. And I certainly don't think any of us should feel bad. I really should have said this to Matt at the beginning. If we're off 5 or 10 minutes earlier, because it gives you a chance to clear your brains, do some of the other things that you want to do. Because really what we want you to do is be able to focus for the next 30 minutes or so on the topic and not get lost in some other activity. So thanks for coming out to this face-off procedures. During the presentation today, I am going to try to teach you 3 different things. I'm going to try to have you look at what the players learn about doing face-offs. And the second thing I'm going to do is going to talk to you a little bit about how we do COVID face-off now. We're also going to look at some of the things we have to remember about face-offs, period. It's a broad brush approach to what we're doing. I can't tell you guys enough that what you should be doing if there's some time off after this call and you've got 5 or 10 minutes before the next presentation begins, get your rule book out and go to Faceoffs 4243 in the rule book and go through the procedures and everything like that yourself. You will benefit from reading the rule book in chunks. You really will. We talk about this in our training all the time, that I'd love you all to read the rule book once before the season starts. You should read it in pieces periodically throughout the season, because your partner or coach or somebody questioned the way you called something. Clarify it. And at the end, if you're going to be fortunate enough to get into a playoff scenario, then read it again before you go to playoffs, where making mistakes is really not acceptable when it comes to a rule procedure. So this is what we're trying to get at as we go along. I also want to make sure you guys remember that the training we're doing is to spark you to get into your rule book. And for so many people, what we're finding is they're not getting into the rule book enough. And if you're going to become a better referee, if you're going to do things right, yes, there's lots of things to do with technique. There's lots to do with positioning, lots of those kind of things to do with signals. But if you don't know your rules, your level of confidence is going to go down, and the relationship you're going to have with the coaches is going to be negative. And believe me, they know when we don't know our rules, and they will play you for it. I think the last statement I want to make is that somebody made a comment about, nobody's maliciously trying to take advantage of these rules. I'm going to give you the contrary. I don't believe that's true at all. I believe not to be because they're mean. I believe coaches are very intelligent people. And what they are taught to do is taught to skirt the rules to make it happen. It doesn't happen as much in youth because we're working on fundamentals, but clearly some of you might remember the incident with one of the teams running with their sticks above their heads with the ball in it because nobody could touch their stick. It was illegal. That's not good coaching. It's somebody thinking that they could beat the rules the way they were. But if you don't think when we talk about face-offs today, remember your very best face-off kids you'll see in high school here, where you will conduct maybe 20 face-offs in a game or 15 or 10. They have conducted thousands in training. They're better at it than you are. And so therefore you must work hard, very hard, to be as good as you can be when you do it. Keep that in mind as we move along. All right, I'm going to try to get to my next screen. So look, this is the way we normally will set up for a game of lacrosse. This is our general scenario of how we're expecting things to look at. None of you are surprised by this get up of players, but if we look at the blue players, you see that they've got 3 attackmen, 3 defensemen, and 3 midfielders, 2 of them which are secluded behind the wing line. The face-off guys are the only people that will be active in the face-off, and the midfielders are allowed to enter into play without interfering with the face-off guys once the whistle is blown, while everybody else behind the restraining lines, like where the A's and the D's are, have to remain in those places until possession is called or until the ball rolls into those zones. So that's the setup. That's what you're going to be looking for as we move along. Don't be surprised. You're seeing now that many more teams now are putting a long stick player either at face-off or putting it into the wing zone area to make sure that they can do their jobs. I only put this stick up for a second to show you a couple things. One is take a moment to review the stick measurements because you'll have to start doing them again. But really what I want you to look at is this stick head. And we know that the head of the stick is 6 inches long. And what I want you to be doing is looking at where should the ball be placed during the face-off when they line them up. Now, we all know we use this term, and if you haven't heard it before, we use top of the stick to the stop. So this is the top right here. This is the stop area. So your ball should be sitting right about in the middle of this zones when we do the face-offs. That's all going to be easy to do when we do old-fashioned face-offs that we've been doing up till now in all our lives, where we can get in there and look. We won't have that skill, so the best we will be able to do is try to see if we can keep them to keep their heads of the sticks and tops and stops together, matching, so that we won't have any problems keeping the ball in the right place. So I want to take you for a moment to let you see, and I'm hoping video will work. We're going to try it. If it doesn't, I'm just going to come back. But this is a video of what it explains very well the rules and regulations of what players would be taught, and they should be taught in early stages of their officiating. And hopefully this will fix. Thanks, Mike. I hope you fixed it for me. Ooh, where are you now?
Hey, Brad, this is Tim. I think you have a typo in YouTube.
Do I? It went there already. I hear.
Oh, maybe not.
No, that's not the one. I don't want this. That's a skipping ad. Hold on.
Alone in my apartment, so I'm tracking him.
There it is. It is here.
You're tracking him?
Okay, that's what I want. All right.
Hi.
Oh, here's what's going to happen, huh? All right, let's see.
So if people turn off their cameras, that'll kind of help a lot.
Thanks, Mike.
Current midfielder and face-off man for the Philadelphia Barrage. Here to show you basic. But now we're going to focus on how to face off and the basic rules to the face-off. First off, face-off is a very important aspect of the game. Face-off takes place at the beginning of every quarter and after every goal. So, in a high-scoring game, this can really, really help your team gain momentum, create transition, and allow your team to have more opportunities to score. When we face off, when we're getting started, we need to know the basic rules. First, everyone faces off right-handed. Never hold the stick in your left hand. Next, when we go to approach the ball, we want to make sure that the back of our sticks are facing the ball. Don't have it like this, you have it like this. We need to know that our feet are lined up behind the line. We're not allowed to have our feet standing over the line. Everything needs to be behind the line. Next, along with our feet, our entire body needs to be behind the neutral zone. The neutral zone is an imaginary plane that goes straight up from the plastic part of your stick, where the metal meets the plastic. An imaginary plane comes up just like this, and everything needs to be behind to the left. The next rules, along with the face-off, are our sticks need to be straight along the line. When we actually get down, stick needs to be straight with the line, not leaning over, not backwards. Next, our stick cannot lean in or lean back. It needs to be straight on the line. Next point is that the ball needs to be just about in the middle of our sticks. We can't have the ball way down on the throat like this or way up high like this. It's got to be lined up in the middle. The next thing is that our sticks need to be off the white line. Can't be on the white line. And lastly, your hands have to be on the ground along with the stick. You can't have them hover over the ground like this. They need to be actually on the line. When the ref blows the whistle, what we're trying to do is actually clamp onto the ball and rake it out to ourselves. So when you face off, it will look something like this. Ref will say down, set, whistle. That's how you face off.
To watch the other segments in this video series or for how-to videos on
Bear with me, guys. All right. So I don't know if you guys, when you looked at that, I believe it probably showed us a lot of what we should be expecting when it face off. He did a pretty good job of telling us some things. I want to look at a few pictures and see that we're doing a good job of teaching this as we go through the coaches. But quick reminder, many of the games that you're going to be doing, it doesn't matter, especially if you're on grass fields, the line that you're going to be seeing may not exist very well. It may be very thin. I don't know what those circumstances are, but in the case of this one here, you can see that these kids have been well trained. Their hands are off the heads of the stick. The sticks are down on the ground. They're matched them up top to stop, and they're outside the lines. It's like the perfect setup for it. That's a sign of good coaching, and that makes our job so much easier. This is what we used to do when we'd get these things. We'd get these guys down. We'd call them down into their positions, make sure that they were fine. Even in a two-man game, you'd be by yourself doing this. In a three-man, you might have a partner helping, but you see the official at this time would then go inside and insert the ball in the center of those sticks to make sure that it's in a fair position for both sides. You will know now when we do the COVID face-offs, and we'll be doing the COVID face-offs. I'm going to use the term without being arrogant until I tell you differently, which means until somebody tells me differently that we can go to the other way, until the rules are restricted or restrictions are changed. We're not going to be putting the ball down there anymore. We're also not going to be able to do this. We're not going to be able to put those hands down and tell these guys set in that position. We're not going to be able to make sure that we're in that close to see that those sticks are sitting up nice and straight, that they're not tipped over or tipped back like you heard in the instruction, that everything, including the handles, are on line. We're not going to get that opportunity to get that real inside view of what we're doing as we go along. Let's look at the changes for the COVID rules and regulations. And I'm going to give you some of these, and I'll show you some face-offs of how we did them in a while. But none of this should be too shocking to you, but you really need to remember how they work. And there's about 10 things I want you to keep in mind. So when the game starts, if you get the ball and you take it to center, put it down on the center square, X, whatever there might be, line, some kind of spot that you're going to be beginning with. You'll see in the videos that we're using that we were doing this during the game, sometimes off the center at Augsburg because their line doesn't go through center, and we were trying to get the players to have something we could measure that their sticks were at least straight. But to put the ball down and back up, and then just get out of there. If a goal was scored already, which is the other reason why we will have a face-off, if the goal was scored and we're going to be having a face-off, we are training right now the goaltender primarily, but you'll also put there any member of his team, because if we're doing with younger kids and the goaltender can't, never mind pick up this ball, he certainly can't throw it to center. Anybody in that group can do it. And the idea is for you as the trail official who's not doing the face-off, we don't want you going into the goal crease to interact with the coaches or the goalies if you do not have to. Stay out of that area. Let them pick the ball up. You remain a socially distanced, safe away. Let them throw the ball up to center. If they can't throw it, if nobody's there to help them, the goalie can toss the ball to you, and then you could toss it up to your partner when we're with younger kids. But for the older kids, get them to get used to doing it. When you're the official about to take the face-off, help the goaltender to know where the ball should be going by signaling to him. Put your hand up, let him know the ball should be coming at you, and that he can toss the ball in your direction as you go off. We've got the ball sitting on the ground and you've backed off. Okay? The face-off players and the officials will stay away. And I'm using 2 yards. You know, we've been using this 6 feet of social distance. It seems to be the common acceptable portion. And I'm going to take a moment at this time to remind all of you, we want lacrosse to be played in the state of Minnesota. Whether you believe in all these rules and regulations regarding COVID, it doesn't matter right now. Just please abide by them, because that's the ones that we're going to have to do as we move forward. That's the best we can, and if we do it, we are going to be able to continue to officiate. All right. So 2 yards apart, and that means there should be like a great triangle with the players 6 feet away from each other. At least there actually will end up being maybe 12. That's good, and you're going to be equal distance apart from them in a perfect triangle between all three of you. While you're waiting for your partner to check the counts and make sure everything is ready for the face-off to begin, this is a time when you check the face-off masks. The masks are in place. It's a good time to tell the guys, pull your mask up. It is hard, whether you like it or not. My opinion is I see a lot of nose peeking going on. If you see the mask starting to go down, you can ask the player during this time to pull his mask up. If you tell them why we are doing it, oftentimes they're going to understand it better. The arrogance and the obnoxiousness that they're going to treat you with will go away, because they understand that if somebody was to see them without it and start to complain, they would probably cancel the season until this rule of masks was lifted. Okay, so please keep that in mind as you're doing things. Don't get into that situation. All right, when you're ready, the official will request the players to assume the face-off position over the ball. You can say down, and you'll have the players go down into their spots. You will not go in there. You will give the players a minimal amount of time to set themselves. Now, you can give some direction from where you are. You can ask those players, please, make sure your sticks are straight along the line. Match your heads up. Push in your mesh. All right, get your hands off the head if you see those things going on. But you're going to have to give these fast. The idea of all this, and I'll remind you about this a little while again, is we want this face-off to be given and put out as quickly as possible because of the potential for interaction at a close distance. So we're not going to hold them down or in place for any longer than we really have to. So once you call set, blow the whistle in a very quick period of time. This comment about encouraging players to clear the ball so that spacing can take place, the idea of it is to try to make sure we're seeing things. The whole purpose of face-offs today is to eliminate the scrum that sits in that area. It's for a number of reasons. They know that players get hurt during this time. Illegal tactics tend to take place in this time. Midfielders tend to rush in and may interact with the players. So the quicker the ball clears that center square or circle or X, the faster things are going to move and the less chance there is going to be for an injury. When the ball finally gets into the possession of a player, you swing your arm in a swinging motion like you'll do to indicate that the possession has taken place. I'm going to ask you when you signal with a swing to at least do it twice, like swing around twice if you can. That would be very beneficial. So this goes back to what I said earlier. We don't want to keep those players down too long. So even when you look at this face-off situation here, those players are clearly within inches of each other. This official is probably a foot or two away, which is what we like to do with youth because we're always trying to help them. Now with this new part here, those players will be where they are, but you're going to be back more. You might find that you're going to be officiating a lot more face-offs from the center line. That might be your only perspective of determining whether those sticks are straight and the heads are staying up and nobody is really gaining an advantage as we move along. All right, so let's take a look at this new face-off method. I'm going to take you, you're going to have to bear with me for a second because I tried to get this to play and it didn't. So I'm going to try by getting onto my YouTube channel. So hold on a second. Good. All right, guys. So when you're looking at this part here of the video, again, I apologize, gentlemen. My computer blew up. When we look at this, this is the setup of what it should look like. Now, these guys are a little further back, but it's okay to train them. And if they creep in a little bit, it won't be such of a problem as they go along. But you can see that this is a fairly good triangle distance away. All right, keeping the players. The ball has been placed down. You can see where it's at. You'll notice that it says, let's look at this again. There was a longer version of this, but I took the shorter one so you guys can see it as we move along. But go ahead. Now you can click it. And we're using electronic whistles. Calls them in. Players go down. He stays where he is. He takes a quick peek, blows the whistle quickly. They get out of there. All right. Now, Matt, can you go to the first one on there and just play through those? And we'll look at a couple of these live. Okay, so there's a distance apart. Chris calls them in. They go in. He looks at them for where they are. Blows a whistle. They do their face off. And off we go. We'll look at one more. If you could just go one more of them. Okay, so you notice there, the kids came in too early on that when the referee pushed them back. So don't come in yet. We're not ready for you. It's a little broken up here a little bit, you'll see. And then you'll see the signal for possession coming at the end. Okay, thank you, Matt. So that gives you an idea of what you should be seeing when we're looking at these new face-offs. It's really important to keep that spacing in place. It's very important for you to make sure that when we're looking at all this activity, that we are not getting in too close to any of the areas as we move along. Okay, good. So I thought for fun, I might show you a minute clip of something where, regardless of calls on face-offs, but I want you to take a look at this, but I really want you to listen to the video of, this is parents taking this, that were able to acquire it. So take a minute to watch this and see how it goes. All right, look, what the video was showing, and I don't think you got to see it, was rather interesting. It showed a game where they must have just cut the video, the face-offs out of these young kids playing, team in black and team in white. And every face-off, the kid in the black uniform, just hammered the kid, like I'm talking across the chest, across the shoulders with his stick, and got the ball, and the referees never called it once. That's why the parents were just going insane. All right, literally hitting him in the head and not calling it, and then sort of waving on possession, but no calls and penalties. So let's not get to that as we go along. How bloody exciting is this? All right. So things you want to remind yourself during face-offs prior to it. All right. So these are the things we had looked at earlier. Stick should be parallel to the center line. We were talking in the last session about what we teach kids or what we can say. And, you know, there's some interest in this. If you were a coach, a lot of time there are coaches, especially at the high school and college level, do not want you instructing their kids at all. They believe that that's their job to do it. They're going to tell you what their kids are doing, and it's fine. And they're better skilled. They can do whatever they want, and they're ready. But when it comes to youth, they're younger kids, 14s, 12s, 10s, etc. A little bit of knowledge implying to them is always helpful. It makes the game go much better. And so as we teach them from an earlier age to do things properly, they will do things properly going forward much better. All right. The stick of the head must be straight up. We saw that in the video that the first guy showed. It's one of the few things that worked on my videos today, so thank you. All right. No hands on the heads of the stick. The gloves and the sticks must be on the ground. And I'm just going to very quickly tell you that you're going to have kids playing in a high school game, and they're going to come to you and they're going to say, are we standing up or are we kneeling for the face-off? Does anybody know why they're asking this question and want to answer?
College is moving that way.
Anybody?
Girls draws.
NCAA rules changed this year.
Correct. So these kids have been playing by NCAA rules oftentimes throughout the summer and the fall. They do it because rightfully so, they believe the game is faster and they want to play faster. So they're playing in these tournaments in a lot of places down east as an example when they travel. I haven't traveled down to these games, but I think people like Chris and other coaches have. They play by NC2A rules anyways with these kids. So they're going to ask you that. Those rules are for the NC2A. Now in NC2A, the players will not be able to put a knee down the ground. All right. And the way they hold their stick will be different. For you guys, guy doesn't have to kneel, but he can put his right knee down or left knee down. He does what he wishes to do as he moves along from it. Okay. Keep the bodies out of the neutral zone. Now, you will get much more support for this if you do the face-offs quickly. And that's why I ask you when you're talking to the players early in this activity, when we're saying these are the new COVID face-offs, make sure you take the time to tell them that we're doing this quick. So they need to get set. And we've been told in the college level, and they'll be reinforcing it again next week on our training call, that do not be afraid to tell these guys, you have to get set faster because we're not waiting. And no, don't give them a break. So if they're going to play around, say set, blow your whistle, get the things going. Make sure they keep their feet behind the stick. Okay. You saw, it was interesting when you watched that guy do the face-off training, you might have noticed that the ball stuck in his stick at the very end of the face-off when he showed it to you. Remember what happens into it is that ball, if it does get stuck in the back of the stick, must be released within one step. All right, not any later than that. Right? So they have to get it out without that time. Make sure they're not withholding the ball from play. This is something we're seeing a lot right now in the fall ball, is they put it down. These kids, again, a lot of them are learning to do face-offs, and they tend to pin the ball down. And then what they're doing is they're looking around to see where they can pass the ball. That look to try to find somebody to throw the face-off ball to is a sign that the face-off has gone too long. Turn it over to the other guy and give it to him. What you will avoid if you do that is the defenseman, the only way he's ever going to get that ball out, if that guy clamps it for long, is to do one of two things. Start slamming at the stick with his stick. All right. He's going to start lifting under the arm if he goes past the stick to try to get the guy off it. Or at the very least, he's going to just clamp on top of that stick, and then he's going to get charged for a violation for holding that stick down in place. So make sure that you keep that in mind as you're going through things. All right. They can't pin the stick down with their stick. If the player who doesn't have the ball pins the stick down, blow the whistle, give it to the guy who's got the ball in his stick. Can't kick through sticks, yours or the other guys. The hands and fingers cannot play the ball. And you'll notice I put down here in sportsmanlike conduct. So there's a lot of things that'll happen that are just violations or turnovers. But if you see them doing something like this, like they're reaching out and using their fingers to pull the ball in, that is not a technical foul. That is an unsportsmanlike penalty. Just the same as if you see guys grabbing an opponent's lacrosse stick. And remember, guys that do this have been trained to do it. And they're pretty good. So keep an eye on that. All right. And grasping the head of the stick during the face-off. So anytime they do those things, those are all concerns of things we have to stop. Those are no-nos.
Hang on a
what we
second.
do
Did I
is we
hear
start
you?
the face-off after a violation. If there are two officials, the trail official will whistle the ball in play. So if you're the face-off guy, but the ball is going towards you, barrel out of there and let that trail official start play. In a 3-official crew, it's usually done by the single side. And you'll notice that I said usually. Does anybody want to give me a reason or two why you might have the lead or single put the ball back into play?
If there's a loose ball technical close to a restraining line.
Yeah. So the ball moves away from center quite a way. I'm sorry, I'm giggling at Danny Gagnon scratching his back. So I think it's rather humorous, but make sure that if it goes farther away and it's more convenient to set yourselves, then set yourselves. The face-off guy can then back away, signal his partner that he can take the face-off and put it into play, and he'll signal the possession. When we're doing face-offs, like everything else, when we're dealing with COVID right now, I want you guys to remember to always act like a pro. These kids may not be, but the very essence that you're working out there as an independent contractor and you're being paid a fee, you have to do your job right. Doing your job right means being in the right position, getting into shape, knowing your rules so that you can do your job. Do that all the time when your interactions with the players, the coaches, the administrators, and the fans, and you're not going to have any problems with this part of the game or any of the other ones as we go along. Always act like a professional when we're doing our job. Things will go well. Anybody have any questions? You will be receiving a 5-question quiz. It will be based primarily on the question or the information we saw on here. There'll be a couple that were based on Faceoffs also, but I really want you to remember those 10 steps that we talked about here of what we're doing when it comes to Faceoffs, is making sure what we're doing. The key thing is what we said here, don't keep the players down too long. If you do that, everything's going to go well. All right.
Hey, show us that video now that you got your screen working.
Yeah. Is it going to work now, you think? All right, let's see. It's rather fun.
Oh,
What the hell?
flash.
What the hell are you guys calling?
Oh,
Ouch.
Holy mackerel, every time a whack to the shins, huh?
shin or hand mostly.
So that gave you an idea what I was so busy laughing at, was that screen. So I'm sorry that you guys didn't get a chance to see it. All right, if there are no other questions, you got to see that video. I'm going to, Chris, are you ready to go? I think they're going to turn it over to you. I so apologize, guys, for the technology.